Hey, are your two settings either Glinda the Good Witch or the Baba Yaga with nothing in between? Are the denizens of the mortal realm surprisingly less receptive to your fey eccentricities and constant pranking?
Jump! I'm joking! I'm joking! I'm joking! I'm joking! Stop!
Well, congratulations! You might be a Fey Wanderer. But what is a Fey Wanderer? Well, sprinkle a bit of pixie dust, do some meditation in a mushroom circle, and pretend like you understood what was happening in a Midsummer Night's Dream so you can impress your horrible friends.
Methought I was enamored of an ass.
Sin City wasn't made for you.
The Feywild, a vast, incredible wilderness full of wonders and terrors, both incomprehensible to the mortal sensibilities. The birthplace of white woman Pinterest boards, lol so random memes, and whatever the fuck is going on inside Willy Wonka's nightmare tunnel. But to be put simply, the Feywild is a place of extremes, and although it mirrors the prime material plane in many ways, the Feywild runs wild with exaggerating its favorite aspects of the real world. So a deep, dark, scary forest is now filled with trees that scrape the clouds and completely devoid of sunlight. Or what was once a rabbit hole is now a pit so deep it reaches other dimensions. But no matter where you are, the Feywild just plays by its own rules, sometimes plopping you down with a cast of lovable Miyazaki plushies, and sometimes making you live as a side character from Cinderella? No, the original Cinderella. Yeah. So, what do you think, gang? Are you ready to roll the dice and find out which fairy tale you're gonna be a part of? Yeah, I didn't think so. What you need is a guide, and that's where the Fey Wanderer comes in. Fey Wanderers are the park rangers of the Fey realm, and while not always native to its plane of existence, share a special connection to its unique humors. And while this gives the Fey Wanderer a much better understanding of the temperament of their favorite terrain, it also comes with a unique set of gifts directly from the land of fairies. But first, do you need a break from the dungeons and a reprieve from the dragons? Are you looking to expand your knowledge and impress your friends with the hottest new RPG on the market? Well, then I'm glad to tell you all about today's sponsor, Legend in the Mist. And if that sounds familiar, it's because Legend in the Mist is brought to you by the same minds behind the critically acclaimed noir thriller City of Mist, with the very same narrative-focused rule set that made that game such a massive success, but brought back into a familiar fantasy world with mysteries to uncover, new places to explore, and a whole new story to tell. Legend in the Mist is the departure from convention that we all love to see. And as much fun as it is to exploit mechanics and become power-hungry gods of our made-up realms, many times the best stories are told through the best characters, and that is what Legend in the Mist excels at the most. Take the reins of your choice of characters, each with unique stories, powers, and of course motivations, and watch as your decisions change them and their abilities. But there is so much to explore when it comes to Legend in the Mist that I couldn't possibly get to it all here. So if you're interested and want to learn more, the link to their Kickstarter page is in the description below. And while there is still time to back this incredible project, you better act fast, because your chance to be the first in line won't last forever. So click the link in the description after you're done with this video and support Legend in the Mist today. But remember, tell them Yimba sent you. A huge thanks to Legend in the Mist and Son of Oak Games for sponsoring the show. And now, back to the video. So you want to learn how to traverse a place that's known for changing the landscape, scenery, and even the amount of time you've been there on a whim. Sounds aggravating. Well, that takes someone equally aggravating in the world of D&D, a ranger. Nah, I'm just playing rangers. But some of you are still terrible, and you know who you are. Luckily, this ranger isn't one of them, but we'll get to that. First, we need to pick up abilities like Favored Foe to mark enemies we hit, allowing us to deal an extra d4 of damage on the first subsequent hit of each round, which increases to a d6 and then a d8 as we level up. As well as Deft Explorer, which includes a suite of buffs like Canny, giving us expertise in one of our skill proficiencies and 2 additional languages we learned from hanging out with fairies, I guess. Makes sense, these little guys talk a lot of shit. Second level is here, which means we pick up a fighting style, and please do yourself a favor and just grab archery. Not only is it thematic for all your cool ranger abilities, but this subclass gets a lot of utility by staying out of the line of fire. So slink into the shadows and launch your arrows from behind a giant mushroom or that tree that's neon for some reason, while giving yourself room to maneuver for the next volley. We also get spellcasting at this level, which the addition of magic is always nice to have, but it will eventually get old seeing you cast Hunter's Mark and Cure Wounds over and over again. Luckily, at 3rd level, you'll get Primal Awareness for some additional spells that you probably won't use, honestly. But we also snag something we definitely will use as we finally become a true Fey Wanderer. Maybe it took some time for that Fey training to actually kick in, or the wilds of your homeland were playing a trick on you, making you think you'd just be a ranger forever. At least it wasn't a player's handbook ranger. Nobody's that cruel. But your connection to the mysterious magics that inhabit that realm have empowered you body and soul. This manifests in dreadful strikes, allowing you to add an extra d4 of psychic damage for free that once again increases to a d6 at level 11, stemming from the uncontrollable chaotic magical energy of a land that's basically just full of bipolar trees. On top of that, you also gain an otherworldly glamour, letting you pick up a proficiency in persuasion, performance, or deception checks, as well as add your wisdom modifier to that roll, letting you become the party face as you embody your position at the top of the hierarchy of manic pixie dream girls. Which works out great, as that fey magic seems to have leaked into your very being and given you some new spells to boot. We immediately get Charm Person at this level, which is one of the most useful out-of-combat spells in the game, and now that we're stacking mods to every charisma check, will allow us to talk our way through many situations where combat seems too daunting, or too annoying. At 5th level, we get an extra attack which will never not be welcome, but we also pick up a new spell with Misty Step. Misty Step is a certified classic in 5e, giving you a 30-foot teleport to anywhere you can see as a bonus action, making your movement capabilities absolutely insane once you add on roving at 6th level for a climbing and swimming speed, as well as an extra 5 feet on top of that. So no matter where you are or where you're going, the Fey Wanderer can get there without breaking a sweat. But maybe you're facing down a debonair combatant who thinks they can sway your mind easier than your sword. Or bow, I guess. Well, at 7th level, we can really show them how it's done with the Beguiling Twist. Now, not only do you have advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened, if you were an ally within 120 feet and make that save, you can redirect the effect to a different creature, forcing them to make a wisdom save or be charmed or frightened by you for a minute. That's awesome! There are so many monsters in this silly book that use those effects, and the ability to essentially know you, a dragon, is hilarious. And honestly, incredibly on brand. If there's one thing the Feywild prides itself on, it's being really hard to read. And this allows you to push that onto your enemies to your advantage. Blasting ahead, we get Landstride at 8th level so we can make it through a Fey forest without having to give the Minnesota goodbye to every tree, bush, and twig we happen to step around. At 9th level, we grab Dispel Magic so we can shut down magic effects with some more confusing Fey shenanigans. And at 10th level, we get Nature's Veil to become invisible as a bonus action a number of times a day equal to your proficiency bonus. As well as Tireless to spend an action to give yourself a D8 plus your wisdom mod and temporary hit points, on top of being able to shake off a point of exhaustion on a short rest instead of a long rest. Which I'm telling you right now may be the most useful ability in 5e if it were something I could do in real life. Do you know how many times I could beat Fire Emblem the Sacred Stones again with that much free time? Me neither. But it's probably a lot. 11th level gives us access to some Fey reinforcements, which allows us to cast the spell Summon Fey without material components and ignore the concentration aspect of the spell as long as we make the duration only a minute. This Fey creature has a ton of abilities that are also dependent on its mood, which you decide as you cast the spell. So you can summon an angry pixie to take on the local minotaur that's been attacking the town and watch as it squares up on your behalf as you focus in with your bow for the easy win. You also get Dimension Door at 13th level for a 500-foot teleport in which you can also take a friend, and Vanish at 14th level so you can no longer be tracked by magical means, as well as gain the ability to hide as a bonus action. But when we reach that big beautiful level 15, our Fey Wanderer becomes a Misty Wanderer, allowing you to cast Misty Step for free a number of times a day equal to your wisdom modifier, as well as allowing you to now bring a willing creature along for the ride. That is a huge buff for a bonus action spell, but the fact that it doesn't require a spell slot is amazing. If you chose either the Shadar Kai or the Eladrin as your race, you have so many teleporting abilities it will be legitimately hard to run out in a day, making you a nightmare to pin down on the battlefield, but also pretty much just Nightcrawler with a bow. And that's rad as hell. And finally wrapping up, we get Mislead at 17th level for an interesting spell that allows you to become invisible while leaving an illusion of yourself where you cast that has tons of fun uses, just unfortunately maybe not this late in the game, as a lot of monsters are going to have abilities like True Sight to figure out what you're doing. Still works on Feywild tourists though, so that's fun. Fortunately, you can also see through those illusions with Feral Senses at 18th level, allowing you to sense invisible creatures within 30 feet of you to never be caught off guard by those pesky pixies. And finally, our capstone is Foe Slayer, allowing us to add our wisdom modifier to either an attack roll or a damage roll once per turn to stack even more of those sweet mods or potentially turn a miss into a hit. Shoo! So does the Fey Wanderer go all the way Wanderer? Hell yes! I gotta admit, I was a little skeptical of this subclass before I dug into it more, just because I didn't really see what the idea was at first. But doing a little more research into what the Feywild actually is in 5e helped inform me as to why this subclass really sings. The Feywild is a place of crazy magic and unpredictable inhabitants, sure, but it's also a place where someone who's devoted themselves to the natural world can truly thrive in the most naturey nature there is. And not only does the Fey Wanderer do all of that well, it also leans into the enigmatic nature of the realm itself with your boost to charisma checks and a lot of your spells. In fact, funnily enough, a ranger who focused wisdom instead of dexterity would actually get a lot of utility out of this subclass, as your free misty steps, your glamour, and your beguiling twist all rely on your wisdom mod and your spell save, making you much more of a caster type ranger than I've ever seen in 5e. But it's the flavor that really caught my imagination with the Fey Wanderer. I'm a huge fan of things like Miyazaki movies or really anything with a weird esoteric fantasy world, and the idea of a guy who's made that their home either by happenstance or sheer force of personality is new and interesting, especially for a class with such a tumultuous past within the community. So hats off, Ranger, you've impressed me once again. But you know, be careful. We'll probably only get a few more of those before we get into the trash. So if you have a list of portals to the Feywild that only show up at the most inopportune times or plot convenience, can trash talk with pixies and trees alike without skipping a beat, and have gotten so used to teleporting that you sometimes forget it's rude to disappear in the middle of a boring... Guess what? You might be a Fey Wanderer. Hey guys, thanks for watching. The very last subclass in round 3 will be up in the poll tomorrow, so it's anyone's guess who will win, but if you want to see your favorite show up in round 4, make sure to shout them out in the comments below or over on the community tab. As always, the Discord is open to anyone wanting to find a game to play in, talk smack about Rangers, or just hang out with some cool people, so click the link in the description to find us over there. And on that guys, I'm gonna leave you for now. Until next time, I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you very soon.